The image of the Holy Family is something that we revere in various forms of art. We have our nativity scene. We see the Holy Family depicted in stained glass windows, in famous paintings. And oftentimes the Holy Family are kind of this family that we admire from a distance. They can seem quite separate from our experience. They are this Holy Family, unlike any other families. We can even, when we think of the Holy Family, judge our own families maybe, feeling a bit guilty about them, that we're imperfect or a bit broken. But when we heard the first prayer of Mass today, we heard that the Holy Family is a family that we are called to imitate. For this reason, then, the Holy Family shouldn't seem so distant from us. In fact, in today's Gospel, when we look at the Holy Family, we see that the Holy Family has much more in common with families throughout the world today than we think. For this reason, when we really consider this Feast of the Holy Family, we see that it truly has something to teach us, a hopeful message about our own families, but also the closeness of the Holy Family to us. When we listen to the Gospel today, we see that the Holy Family actually was not a family that experienced perfection in all ways or lived this serene life. Far from it. We see that the Holy Family experienced much stress, difficulties, and challenges. After the great celebration of Christmas, today's Gospel is a bit of a whiplash. We've celebrated with joy the birth of Jesus, and now we hear the Gospel today. Joseph is told, "Go and flee to Egypt." The Holy Family, as we find them today, is in great struggle. Herod is looking to get rid of this child. They are fleeing for their lives. They're undergoing difficulties and struggles. The Holy Family, then, is not free from challenges. Far from it. The Holy Family is living through moments of stress, difficulties. They are, in essence, refugees. For this reason, we know that the Holy Family is very close to all families who are struggling in big ways and in small. The Holy Family, as we see in the Gospel today, were refugees. They were forced to flee. According to the United Nations, by the end of 2025, 117 million people were forcibly displaced worldwide. So many refugees forced to flee like the Holy Family. According to UNICEF in 2025, 400 million children live globally in poverty and are deprived of at least two essentials among food, clean water, or sanitation. There are many families who are struggling just as the Holy Family did. But even those families that aren't undergoing such acute crises still struggle with difficulties economically, struggle with relationships, struggle with health difficulties, struggling with the daily challenges of raising children. All families struggle, and the Holy Family was no exception. God then did not want to spare the Holy Family from these challenges and difficulties. What makes this family holy then? Why do we call them the Holy Family? We see in the Gospel today that truly what makes them holy is that God was always present to them, supporting them and strengthening them. We celebrate, of course, during Christmas, the birth of Christ and the Incarnation. We celebrate that Jesus is Emmanuel, God with us. It's fitting, therefore, that we celebrate right after Christmas this Feast of the Holy Family, because it shows us that one of the main ways that God is present to us, caring for us, is through our families. All families struggle. All families experience difficulties, but it is really along that journey where God is with us, caring for us. It's in our families that God looks after us. We can think of God, who is our Father, just as He was Christ's Father, as being a sort of parent who keeps guard over their children at night. You can imagine, for example, a child who's in bed, who's struggling maybe with an illness, and the parent is seated there maybe in a dark room to the corner, just keeping an eye lovingly on that child, making sure that they are always all right, never leaving their side regardless of what happens. God the Father is like this to us. God the Father journeys with us, cares for us, looks over us, and never ever abandons us. It's really in this life of the family that God is with us. The Holy Family was not free from struggling or difficulties. So too, each and every one of our families experience trials. God never said he would take these away, but God always promises to be with us and to strengthen us. Because of this, we can maybe rethink what it means to be a holy family. Holiness, it doesn't seem, is sort of the end goal or the end prize. Holiness is rather found along the journey of choosing to love, of choosing to serve, and of choosing to sacrifice along the way. The Holy Family, especially as we read about them in Matthew's Gospel, is far from sort of these beautiful images that we see sometimes, where everything is peaceful, where there's no struggles, where there's no difficulties. The Holy Family underwent real trials. We don't know much about the early life of Jesus, but we know he had to flee into Egypt. We know as well the heartbreaking incident when he was a child, when he became lost in the temple. There were certainly many trials and struggles that the Holy Family underwent. It was through their loving care for one another that holiness was exhibited. The same too for us, that holiness in our family is not some sort of end prize that we receive. We experience God's grace, God's holiness, and God's life when we choose to commit, I think, to the messiness of family life, the difficulties, the trials that accompany that journey. When we choose, once again, to apologize when we've made mistakes. When we choose, once again, to forgive, to say that I accept your apology. When we choose, once again, for I don't know how many times in that day, to serve the other person, to clean up, to kind of go that extra mile to help them feel comfortable. It's in those daily moments of service, that journey along the way, where true holiness is found. The Holy Family, then, when we look at them, should never make us feel maybe down about our own family. So many families are really hanging on by a thread, are struggling to get by. These families too are holy because God's presence is there. In the gospel today, then, we truly learn that holiness in a family, I think, is found when we choose to commit to love, even in the midst of difficulties, even in the midst of trials. It is then that these families become holy. It is then that we can grow in that love of Christ, Mary, and Joseph. Let us then pray in a special way today in gratitude for all our families. We pray in a special way this evening for families who are struggling as the Holy Family was, that we all may always live that holiness of the family life.